buckle up, because I'm about to blow your mind with a question that will shake the very foundation of your reality. What if you're already dead and you don't even realize it? This isn't some cryptic riddle or a late-night philosophical debate. It's a jaw-dropping theory grounded in the wild world of quantum mechanics, suggesting that death, as you know it, might be a cosmic illusion. Welcome to the mind-bending concept of quantum immortality, a theory that flips everything you thought you knew about life, death, and consciousness upside down. At its core lies Hugh Everett III's many worlds interpretation, a radical idea that every quantum event spawns a new universe for every possible outcome. If this is true, your consciousness might be dodging death like a superhero, seamlessly shifting to timelines where you keep on living no matter how close the call. The implications? They're not just profound, they're downright haunting. Right now, as you sit here, countless versions of you could already be gone in parallel realities, yet you're blissfully unaware, living in a timeline where you cheated fate. The evidence isn't locked away in a lab, it's hiding in plain sight, woven into the fabric of your everyday life. Let's dive headfirst into this cosmic rabbit hole and uncover the truth. The many worlds interpretation, dreamed up by physicist Hugh Everett III, is like something straight out of a sci-fi blockbuster, but it's one of the most provocative theories in modern science. Picture this. Every choice you make, every moment that unfolds, every what if in your life, doesn't just happen or not. It fractures reality into a kaleidoscope of parallel universes. In one universe, you're devouring this script. In another, you never even found it. This isn't some far-fetched fantasy. It's a serious attempt to make sense of the bizarre, probabilistic dance of particles at the quantum level. The many worlds interpretation says that when a quantum event happens, reality doesn't pick one outcome and ditch the rest. Instead, every possible outcome plays out, each in its own distinct universe. What does this mean for you? Every second of your life is birthing countless alternate realities. In some, you're thriving, a shining star. In others, you're stumbling. And in some, you're no longer here. But here's where things get wild and a little spooky. Quantum immortality suggests your consciousness never steps foot in the universes where you die. Instead, it slips into a reality where you're still kicking, making it feel like you've dodged every bullet life throws at you. This is where quantum mechanics stops being a dusty textbook theory and hits you right in the gut, becoming intensely personal. Let's talk about Schrödinger's cat. That iconic thought experiment where a cat in a box is both alive and dead until someone peeks inside. Everett's theory takes it a step further. Observing the cat doesn't collapse the possibilities into one outcome, it splits reality into two, one where the cat's purring, another where it's not. Now swap the cat for you. Quantum immortality posits that your consciousness is the observer, always landing in the reality where you're still alive. Think about those heart-stopping moments in your life. A car that missed you by inches, an illness you miraculously beat, or a situation you had no business surviving. What if those weren't just lucky breaks? What if they were your consciousness leaping to a timeline where you made it through? Every time death came knocking, you didn't answer, not because of chance, but because that's how reality rolls. This idea is both a lifeline and a mind melter. On one hand, it hints that you'll never truly face your own death, at least not the way we've been taught. On the other, it forces you to wrestle with what it means to live. If you can't die, does life lose its edge? Or does it become infinitely more precious because you're always surfing the wave of survival? These aren't just questions, they're a call to rethink everything, and the answers are anything but straightforward. Some of the most explosive insights about this theory are too hot to drop here. Want in on the exclusive scoop? Join our free Insights Academy newsletter, link in the description. You'll also score a free copy of The Callion, but only for a limited time, so don't sleep on it. Now, back to the theory. If quantum immortality is legit, it's not just a quirky science fact. It's a full-on revolution that redefines existence. That might just be a trick of perspective. A barrier your consciousness sidesteps without a second thought. If the multiverse is real, your life isn't a straight line. It's a sprawling, interconnected web of possibilities, with your consciousness weaving through the threads where you survive. And here's the kicker. The evidence isn't some secret code buried in a physics lab. It's all around you, screaming for attention if you know where to look. Let's go hunting for those clues. Quantum immortality is the most chilling spin-off of Everett's many worlds interpretation. It takes the multiverse and makes it personal, suggesting that you, yes, you, might never taste death. Instead, your consciousness hops to a timeline where survival is still on the table. To someone in another universe, you might be gone, but to you, death is a no-show. It's like your existence is an unbreakable thread, stitching through realities where life goes on. Let's paint a picture. Imagine you're in a car accident. In one timeline, the crash is fatal, but in another, the brakes catch just in time, or a tiny twist of fate leaves you unscathed. Quantum immortality says your consciousness, the part of you that feels, thinks, lives, always sticks with the timeline where you're still here. To you, it feels like you're constantly outrunning death, even though in countless other universes, you didn't make it. So, what does this do to the idea of death? We've always seen it as the ultimate full stop, the moment consciousness blinks out. Quantum immortality smashes that idea to bits, replacing it with an endless chain of continuations. From your perspective, life never stops, no matter how many times death claims you in other realities. To the world, you might be gone, but to you, there's always another road, another chance, another world. The fallout from this theory is massive. First, it makes you question mortality itself. If you never truly experience death, does it even exist as we know it? Second, it drags you into a deep dive on identity and selfhood. Are you still you if your consciousness jumps to a slightly different reality? Or do these jumps create entirely new versions of you? These questions aren't just brain teasers. They cut to the core of what it means to exist, and they're not handing out easy answers. Here's something to chew on. Every choice you make, every moment you live, feeds into this thread of survival. The tiniest actions, a split-second swerve, a gut instinct, a fleeting thought, can steer which timeline your consciousness follows. It's like you're surfing an infinite web of possibilities, always riding the waves where life keeps going. Let's push it further. Picture someone beating a terminal illness against all odds. Doctors call it a miracle. Friends call it destiny. But through the lens of quantum immortality, maybe their consciousness just slid into a timeline where the disease wasn't a death sentence. To the world, it's a 1 in a million shot. To them, it's just another day of being alive. This theory doesn't just mess with how we see death. It rewrites how we understand life. If you're always shifting towards survival, what does that do to the weight of your choices? Does life feel less urgent because it never ends? Or does it become a priceless treasure because every moment shapes your cosmic journey? Quantum immortality also stirs up some creepy questions. If your consciousness keeps dodging death, are you leaving behind versions of yourself that weren't so lucky? Are there universes where you're just a memory in someone else's heart? And what happens to those other yous? Do they vanish, or do they keep living their own stories, completely separate from yours? These ideas stretch the limits of what's possible, challenging not just reality, but the very essence of who you are. If quantum immortality holds water, we've been living under a massive misconception about death. A false sense of finality that's shaped our fears, dreams, and everything in between. As eerie as it sounds, this isn't just about death. It's about resilience, continuity, and the mind-blowing power of your consciousness. It suggests your awareness is way more flexible, way less tethered to the physical world than we ever thought. So, what does this mean for the world around us? If quantum immortality is real, survival isn't just a biological fluke. It's a core feature of how reality operates, and that changes everything. Let's dig deeper into what it means to be already dead. The answers are closer and weirder than you might think. What does it mean to be already dead? It's a phrase that sends chills down your spine, but in the context of quantum immortality, it unveils a truth about existence most of us never dare to face. If Everett's many worlds interpretation is right, then for every timeline where you're still breathing, there are countless others where you're not. Every decision, every moment, every heartbeat splits reality into new versions. In some, you're living your best life. In others, your story's over. To those left behind in those other timelines, you're already dead. Think about it. Every time you dodged a bullet, whether it was a near miss on the highway, a health scare you beat, or a danger you narrowly escaped, there could be a reality where you didn't pull through. Yet here you are, your consciousness anchored in the timelines where you survived. To you, it feels like you're still in the game, but in another universe, someone might be mourning you. This duality hits like a ton of bricks. You're alive here, but dead elsewhere, all at once. Let's play out a thought experiment. Imagine someone survives a plane crash, walking away from a wreck that claimed nearly everyone else. In their reality, they're the miracle, the one who beat the odds. But in another timeline, where their seat was just a fraction closer to the impact, their consciousness doesn't make it. Their family grieves, their story ends, and they're remembered as a tragedy. But to their own awareness, that timeline doesn't exist. They've shifted to the reality where they survived, completely oblivious to their alternate fate. Now blow that idea up to cover every moment of your life. For every reality where you're still here, there are others where you're not. You're already dead in countless universes, your consciousness dancing along the threads of survival. It's a haunting thought, but it also flips the script on life and death. Quantum immortality says death isn't a single, final curtain call. It's a never-ending forking the road, with your awareness always taking the path where you keep going. So, what does it mean to be alive in this setup? If your consciousness is always dodging the end, is life an infinite road trip through the multiverse? Or just a series of fleeting perspectives, none of them the real truth? These questions strike at the heart of existence. If death is an illusion, then maybe our whole idea of life is too. Let's get philosophical. If death is just a boundary your consciousness skips over, does it carry the weight we've piled onto it? Religions, laws, and cultures are built on the idea that death is the ultimate finish line. But if quantum immortality is true, death is more like a horizon, always out of reach, no matter how close you get. This might explain why so many ancient beliefs, from reincarnation to eternal life, feel like they were onto something. Maybe they weren't just stories. Maybe they were gut instincts, tapping into a deeper truth. On a personal level, quantum immortality messes with your sense of identity. If you're alive in one timeline and dead in another, which you is the real deal? Are you a single consciousness threading through a maze of possibilities, or an infinite collection of selves, each living its own reality? And if it's the latter, is your sense of self a unified story or a fractured mosaic of experiences? These aren't easy questions, but they force us to face the limits of how we see ourselves. Most of us picture life as a straight line, birth to death, start to finish. But quantum immortality paints it as a sprawling, branching tree, with each branch a different reality. Some branches see you soaring, others see you crashing, and in many, you're already gone. This isn't just a theory to geek out over. It's a lens that changes how you see your choices and your life. If you're already dead in countless universes, the life you're living right now becomes a singular radiant moment. It's the thread your consciousness is riding, the timeline you're shaping. And if that's true, every second counts, not because it's your only shot, but because it's the one. So, how do we wrap our heads around this paradox? How do we make sense of a reality where we're both alive and dead, depending on the timeline? The answers aren't just in science, they're in philosophy, spirituality, and the way we choose to live. Let's keep peeling back the layers of this mystery by looking at the evidence all around us. Believe it or not, the clues are staring us in the face. Quantum immortality might sound like a theory cooked up in a physics lab, but its echoes ripple through real-world moments we've all heard about or even lived. From impossible survivals to weird glitches in memory, the hints of this unsettling idea are everywhere, if you know where to look. Up with near-death experiences. Ever heard someone say, "I should have been a goner, but somehow I'm here"? These are the moments that defy logic. Someone walks away from a car wreck that should have been fatal. A patient with a terminal diagnosis suddenly recovers, leaving doctors scratching their heads. We call it luck, fate, or a miracle. But what if it's more? Quantum immortality suggests these aren't flukes. Your consciousness just slid into a timeline where survival was still possible. Take a hiker who plummets off a cliff, falling far enough to end it all, only to land in a way that leaves them battered but breathing. Or someone who misses a flight by minutes, only to hear later it crashed with no survivors. These stories aren't just wild. They tap into a primal sense that life somehow cheated the odds. Quantum immortality says it's not cheating, it's how reality works, funneling your consciousness into timelines where you're still here. Then there's the Mandela effect. Those eerie moments when groups of people swear something happened one way, but history says otherwise. Think of folks convinced Nelson Mandela died in prison, or that a movie line was different, or a logo looked wrong. Skeptics chalk it up to bad memory, but some theorists wonder, are these glitches, glimpses of alternate timelines we shifted from? Could they be crumbs of a multiverse where things played out differently? Ever had a moment where reality felt off? A street you know like the back of your hand looks subtly wrong? A conversation you swear happened but no one else remembers? Or an object in your house showing up where you didn't leave it? We brush these off as brain farts, but quantum immortality nudges us to wonder. Are these tiny shifts between timelines like reality showing its seams? Quantum mechanics itself drops hints that reality is weirder than we think. The double slit experiment shows particles acting like they exist in multiple states at once until observed, suggesting reality is a web of possibilities, not a fixed track. If that's true for particles, why not for your life's path? And don't forget those wartime stories of impossible survival. Soldiers found alive after explosions that should have ended them. Pilots walking away from crashes that defy physics. What if these aren't miracles, but quantum immortality at work, with consciousness snapping to the timeline where survival was possible? Sure, some say these are just rare flukes, statistically possible but unlikely. But quantum immortality flips that script. If your consciousness always lands in the reality where you survive, what looks like a long shot to others is inevitable for you. To the world, it's luck. To you, it's just another day. But this theory isn't all warm fuzzies. It raises dark questions about the yous left behind in timelines where you didn't make it. Are they just echoes in the multiverse? Or do they keep going, living lives you'll never know? And what about when survival feels more like a burden than a gift? If quantum immortality locks you into endless survival, what happens when the going gets tough? The evidence for quantum immortality isn't just in labs or equations. It's in the stories we share, the moments we live, the unexplainable events that shape us. From the soldier who dodged death to the hiker who fell and lived, These moments challenge the idea that death is the end. So, what does this mean for us? If quantum immortality is real, it forces us to rethink life, death, and every choice we make. It paints a world that's infinitely layered, where survival isn't luck, it's a core feature of consciousness. But this isn't just heady theory. It demands we rethink how we live. Let's zoom in on consciousness itself and its role in this cosmic adventure. If quantum immortality says your consciousness keeps finding survivable realities, it begs a massive question. What is consciousness anyway? Is it just your brain doing its thing? Or is it something bigger? Something that ties you to the multiverse itself? We take consciousness for granted. It's how we experience the world. But stop and think, what is it really? Scientists, philosophers, and mystics have been duking it out over this for centuries, and we're still nowhere near a clear answer. Quantum immortality, though, throws a wild card into the mix, suggesting consciousness might be the key to unlocking existence itself. Neuroscience says consciousness comes from your brain, a byproduct of neurons firing. If your brain shuts down, game over. But if that's true, quantum immortality shouldn't work. Instead, this theory hints that your awareness is something deeper, something that can outlive your body. This isn't a new idea. Ancient traditions have long said consciousness isn't tied to the physical. Hinduism and Buddhism talk of the self as a traveler through endless cycles of rebirth. Indigenous cultures see consciousness as woven into the universe itself. For them, death isn't an end, it's a shift. Quantum immortality drags these ancient vibes into modern science, suggesting your consciousness might operate beyond the limits we've always assumed. So, what does this mean in a multiverse? If your consciousness can hop realities, when one timeline ends, it's like an observer, not just seeing reality but navigating it, unbound by physical rules. This vibes with quantum mechanics, where observation shapes outcomes. In the double-slit experiment, particles act like they're everywhere until observed, then pick a path. What if your consciousness is the observer, choosing which reality you live in? This opens a wild possibility. Your consciousness might be the engine of your multiverse journey. If so, your sense of self isn't locked to one body or timeline. It's a thread tying together countless versions of you across infinite realities. Are you one person, or the sum of every possible you? And if you're always shifting to survivable timelines, is there a you in every reality imaginable? But it gets weirder. Is your consciousness calling the shots, or just along for the ride? Are you a passenger in this cosmic road trip, or do your choices, conscious or not, steer the path? Some thinkers say your intentions, focus, even beliefs might shape the realities you land in. Your thoughts and decisions aren't just moves in one timeline. They're waves rippling across the multiverse. This sparks another big question. What happens to the yous left behind? If your consciousness jumps to a survivable timeline, what's left in the reality you ditched? Do those versions of you keep going, or do they fade out? It's a haunting idea that messes with the whole concept of you. If your consciousness threads multiple realities, maybe there's no single you, just a constellation of perspectives. Quantum immortality also makes us rethink death. If your consciousness never hits the end, what is death? Is it just one version of you checking out in a specific timeline? Or a smooth transition to another reality? Death starts to feel less like a wall and more like a door your consciousness walks through without noticing. But let's not skip the emotional weight. If you never truly die, does life lose its spark? Or does every moment gain epic meaning because it shapes your multiverse journey? These aren't just brain games. They cut to the core of what it means to be alive. Quantum immortality says your consciousness is infinite, tangled up in the fabric of reality. But what you do with that is up to you. And here's a mind bender. If consciousness is the observer navigating the multiverse, maybe it's not just how you see reality, it's what shapes it. Your awareness isn't just riding the multiverse, it's sculpting it, picking paths and building worlds. This isn't just science or philosophy, it's personal. What does it mean to be conscious, to exist, to surf an infinite, ever-shifting reality? The answers might not just be in the nuts and bolts of quantum immortality, but in embracing the mystery of consciousness itself. This realization unlocks a whole new way of living, one free from fear and bursting with possibility. If quantum immortality is real, it doesn't just challenge life and death, it rewrites the rulebook. Knowing you might never experience death forces you to face age-old questions. What's the point of living if death's a myth? What happens to ideas like legacy, meaning, or morality when the end we fear? These aren't just deep thoughts, they're the heart of being human. Let's start with fear. For most of us, the fear of death is a primal beast, driving our choices, dreams, and relationships. We hoard for the future, stick to safe routines, and dodge risks because we think life's a ticking clock. But what if that clock's a lie? If quantum immortality means you never truly end, does that kill the fear of death? Or trade it for something even stranger? On one hand, this theory is pure freedom. If death's not real, the chains we put on ourselves start to crumble. Would you chase bigger dreams, take wilder risks, or live with reckless passion if you knew you couldn't lose in the ultimate sense? Failure might still sting, but that gut-wrenching fear of oblivion could vanish, opening the door to a life that's bold, free, and unapologetically you. But there's a flip side. Quantum immortality raises some heavy ethical questions. If your consciousness is guaranteed to keep going, could you get careless, shrugging off the consequences of your actions? If one version of you always survives, who cares what happens in the other timelines? This isn't just hypothetical. It's a moral gut check. Knowing you'll live on could make you numb to others' struggles, whose consciousness might not play by the same rules. Or at least, not in ways you can see. Then's meaning. A lot of us find purpose in legacy. Building something that outlives us, like art, family, or a mark on the world. But if death's an illusion, what's legacy worth? If you never really leave, does what you create still matter? Or does meaning shift to the raw, in-the-moment experience of life? Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre said life has no built-in meaning. We make our own. Quantum immortality backs that up, saying your life's value isn't about how long it lasts, but how you navigate the endless possibilities. Every moment, every choice is you painting your reality. And what about morality? Most moral codes lean on the idea that life's short, so our actions matter. Religions tie morality to an afterlife, dishing out rewards or punishment. But if your consciousness never stops, does morality become less about divine scorekeeping and more about crafting the life you want? Your choices might shape the timelines you live in, making morality about aligning with the realities you'd rather call home. This isn't abstract. Your decisions ripple, shaping your world. Choosing kindness over cruelty, courage over fear, or creativity over stagnation doesn't just touch others. It builds the reality you experience. If quantum immortality's real, every choice you make could nudge you toward a different slice of the multiverse. Morality isn't just about right and wrong. It's about creating a life worth living somewhere. But there's a shadow here. If death's not real, does life lose its fire? If you're always slipping into survivable timelines, do the stakes feel lower, like nothing matters? Stories about immortality often end in boredom or despair, with characters drifting from the world. Quantum immortality twists that. You're not immortal, just always continuing. The stakes are still sky high. Not because you'll end, but because every timeline is a one-shot deal. Once you leave a reality, there's no going back. This is the paradox of quantum immortality. Life is both infinite and fleeting. Your consciousness might go on forever, but each timeline is a unique, irreplaceable thread in the multiverse. That gives life urgency, not because it'll end, but because every version of you is living a singular story. Your choices, relationships, and experiences matter because they're tied to the timeline. So, what do we do with this? If quantum immortality is real, it doesn't just change how we think about death, it transforms life. It dares us to ditch fear, seize possibility, and own the realities we create. It asks us to embrace the infinite while cherishing the now. Above all, it reminds us that life isn't about dodging death, it's about diving headfirst into the moments we're given. As we keep exploring, we'll see how quantum immortality can free us from fear and fuel a life of purpose. But first we need to tackle the illusion of death head-on and figure out what it means to let it go. If quantum immortality's real, death as we know it is just smoke and mirrors. A boundary our consciousness never crosses. But shaking off this illusion takes more than just knowing the theory. It takes a seismic shift in how you see the world, a bold willingness to ditch deep-rooted fears, and the guts to live like the limits you've set don't exist. Let's start with the fear of death. For centuries, it's been the ultimate human drive, shaping cultures, religions, and entire societies. We fight to delay it, dodge it, deny it, building rituals and beliefs to soften its sting. But what happens when you realize death isn't the end you've been sold? Quantum immortality says the thing we dread most is just a transition, a moment where your consciousness slides into another reality. It doesn't mean fear vanishes, but it invites you to see death for what it is, a mirage born of our limited view of reality. Imagine how freeing this could be. If death isn't the final boss, life becomes a playground of infinite possibility. Your choices, risks, and paths aren't chained to the fear of losing it all. They become chances to live fully, to chase what makes existence electric. You're not living to outrun death. You're living to discover what it means to be alive. But letting go of death's illusion isn't just about facing fear. It's about claiming your power. Quantum immortality suggests your consciousness isn't just along for the ride. It's shaping the reality you live in. Every decision, thought, and belief you hold sets the course of your existence. You're not a bystander in the multiverse. You're a creator, a navigator, a force carving out your path. Think about what this means for your life. If every moment is a chance to shape your reality, what you focus on matters. Are you living in sync with the possibilities you want, or stuck in loops of fear, doubt, and limits? Breaking free from death's illusion isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving, choosing a life that screams the infinite potential of your consciousness. This mindset also flips how we see failure. In a world where death's a myth, failure loses its bite. Every stumble, every wrong turn, every oops is just another thread in the multiverse, one that doesn't define you, but adds to your story's richness. Challenges aren't threats. They're invitations to grow, to explore new paths, to stumble into realities you'd never have found otherwise. But what about the lives we leave behind? If quantum immortality means your consciousness always finds a survivable reality, are you abandoning other versions of you? Are you leaving loved ones in worlds where you're gone? These are tough questions, but they point to a truth. Every timeline is unique, and every you has its own perspective. Your consciousness keeps going, but the threads you leave are still part of the multiverse, woven into its infinite tapestry. That doesn't make them less. It shows how connected everything is. Letting go of death's illusion also makes us rethink life's purpose. If death's not the end, what are we living for? There's no one answer, but it pushes us past society's shallow goals. Money, status, stuff, they fade when you see they're tied to a finite view of life. Meaning becomes personal, profound, in the connections you forge, the creativity you unleash, the ways you shape your reality. This isn't just about you. Imagine a world where everyone buys into death as an illusion. How would it change how we handle conflict, injustice, or inequality? Would we risk more for the greater good, knowing our actions echo across infinite timelines? Would we choose collaboration over competition, connection over walls, growth over fear? Breaking free from death's illusion isn't just personal freedom. It's a spark for collective awakening. This awakening doesn't mean ignoring death's practical reality. It's about seeing it as a shift, a continuation, a boundary your consciousness leaps over. Embracing this lets you ditch fear's limits and live with purpose and possibility that go way beyond just surviving. But shaking off death's illusion is just the start. Once you get that life's infinite, the question is, what's next? How will you steer the multiverse to build a reality that sings your deepest values and dreams? Let's push this further and see how this shift can spark a collective transformation. One that doesn't just free us from fear, but empowers us to create a world of connection, creativity, and endless potential. What if the whole world woke up to death as an illusion? If we truly grasped that our consciousness doesn't end but flows through infinite timelines, it would shatter the fear-driven systems running our lives. Fear of death has been humanity's puppet master for ages. Governments, religions, even social norms lean on it to keep us in line. But what if we all cut those strings? What if we saw the end we fear as a lie, that life is a never-ending dance across realities? Wow! This wouldn't just change lives, it would rebuild the world from the ground up. The first big shift? Fear-based control would collapse. Our world runs on fear. Ads that scream you're missing out, politics that thrive on instability. Fear shapes our choices. But if death, the ultimate fear, is exposed as a sham, those tactics lose their power. Imagine a life where fear doesn't call the shots. What could you achieve without the constant buzz of anxiety about time or the unknown? Very intimidated by the idea of creating a society that prizes courage and creativity over playing it safe. When death's no longer the end game, people might feel free to take bold risks, challenge the status quo, and chase what sets their soul on fire. Why settle for ordinary when you've got infinite chances to live authentically? This isn't just personal. It's about building a culture that celebrates exploration and innovation, not one that slaps down anything outside the norm. Think about the ripple effects on global problems. If we stop seeing life as a one and done, we might feel more tied to the bigger picture. Issues like climate change, inequality, or war could be tackled with a long view mindset, valuing sustainability and collective good over quick wins. If life's infinite, our actions matter not just for us, but for the realities we leave behind. Quantum immortality doesn't let us off the hook. It doubles down on responsibility, reminding us every choice shapes the multiverse. But this awakening isn't just about doing, it's about connecting. Imagine relationships built on the idea that we're all part of an infinite web. Petty fights, grudges, and divisions start to feel small. Instead of zeroing in on what sets us apart, we might focus on the shared thrill of being conscious beings surfing an infinite reality. Empathy and understanding would flow naturally, forging bonds that run deeper than ever. That said, collective awakening won't be a cakewalk. For many, fear of death is hardwired, part of the stories we've grown up with, the frameworks we've built our lives on. Letting it go means unlearning centuries of conditioning, and not everyone's ready to jump. Some might push back, clinging to old narratives for comfort or identity. That's where individual awareness kicks in. Every person who embraces this view adds to the momentum, sparking a chain reaction that nudges others to question, explore, and wake up. So, how do we kick this off? Start small, with purpose. Reflect on your choices and the fears behind them. Are they pushing you toward the life you want, or just reactions to a fake sense of scarcity? By challenging those fears and acting on your values, you start reshaping your reality and inspiring others to follow suit. Next, lean into connection. Share these ideas, not as gospel, but as questions worth wrestling with. Create spaces for real talk, where curiosity and critical thinking thrive. Collective awakening grows through conversation, planting seeds that bloom into massive shifts in perspective. Finally, own the realities you're building. Quantum immortality shows consciousness isn't passive. It's a force molding the multiverse. Every choice, no matter how tiny, weaves the fabric of existence. Live with intention, and you're helping craft a collective reality that values growth, connection, and infinite possibility. Doom insights about this awakening are too big for here. For deeper dives, exclusive talks, and game-changing resources, join our free Insights Academy newsletter, link in the description. You'll also get a free copy of the Kianan, but only for a limited time. So, act fast to unlock the mysteries of existence. Picture a world where fear doesn't run the show, where creativity explodes and connection bridges every divide. This isn't a pipe dream. It's a possibility that starts with waking up. The illusion of death has gripped humanity too long. It's time to break free and embrace the truth of infinite life. But this isn't the finish line, it's the starting gun. Let's take this knowledge and build a reality worth living for us and the infinite versions of us still to come. Death, as we've known it, isn't the end. It's a mirage, a trick of our limited view. Quantum immortality obliterates this illusion, showing our consciousness is tougher, more adaptable, and infinitely bigger than we ever dreamed. This doesn't just change how we see death, it rewrites how we live. If death's not final, every choice you make right now becomes a cosmic act of creation. Every decision, every bond, every moment is part of the unique reality your consciousness is carving out. The multiverse might hold endless possibilities, but the timeline you're in is yours alone. Fleeting, irreplaceable, and packed with chances to shape a life that's unmistakably you. But don't think this lets you off the hook. If anything, it ramps up the stakes. Quantum immortality reminds us our actions echo across realities, shaping not just our world, but the ones we leave behind. It calls us to live with purpose, to grab the infinite possibilities while savoring the now. As this shift isn't just personal, it's a collective game changer. Imagine a society that ditches the fear of death. What if we stopped building systems on scarcity, competition, and control and went all in on creativity, connection, and growth? What if we chose collaboration over division, understanding over judgment, courage over playing it safe? This isn't just a lofty idea, it's a roadmap for a new way to live. But this knowledge is only as strong as what we do with it. Knowing death's an illusion isn't enough. We have to live like life's an infinite adventure. Take risks, chase your passions, drop the fears holding you back, and dive into the possibilities ahead. The universe is vast, and your consciousness is its captain. But here's the final twist. Everything we've covered is just the tip of the iceberg. The implications of quantum immortality, consciousness, and the multiverse are so massive, they demand more exploration. This info's just a spark. You need the next piece to light the fire. What you've learned here is only the start. To connect the dots, click the video you see right here. Trust me, it's the key to unlocking everything we've talked about. If this hit home, drop a comment saying, "I got it." Let's keep this cosmic journey going.